Most beginners can identify a great photograph, but why does taking one often seem like guesswork in the moment? Why does it seem like luck when you finally do? And what is the secret to taking book-worthy photographs every time you pick up your camera? Well, recently I fell down a rabbit hole trying to find the answers to these exact questions. And what I found stood out to me like the bulge of my Sigma lens. The pro-level photographs all share one very distinct yet subtle quality that separates them from the photos that belong in your grandma's trash can. And no, it has nothing to do with the experience level of the photographer and absolutely nothing to do with the quality of your camera. But once I show you the difference between the great photographs and their not so great counterparts, the clarity you receive after watching this video will have you shooting pro level photographs at a consistent rate in no time. Starting with this photo that I shot on a family trip to Portugal with my brother's Fujifilm X100V. Now, I'm no Led Zeppelin fan, but naming this image anything other than the Stairway to Heaven would be, I guess, an injustice to humanity. But why does the photograph convey this intention so well, you might ask? Well, firstly, let's identify three elements that I guess put this image all together. You've got the sky, the staircase, and the terrain we're standing on. Now, a successful orchestra works because no instrument is trying to outcompete the other. And that's what I think our elements succeed at doing in this image. Our eyes transfer equally back and forth between the stairs and the sky, while the ground kind of like sets the stage of where it is we actually are. Nothing overpowers or distracts from its fellow elements. However, in this version of the same scene that I took probably like 2 minutes earlier, we can already feel something slightly off. The stairway to heaven suddenly becomes the stairway and heaven. Imagine all the trumpets in an orchestra got louder all of a sudden, and now that's the only thing you can seem to hear in the opera. Stand too close to an element and it might overpower everything else, which might leave your audience missing the whole point of the shot. But let's see what quickly happens when we just straight up remove the trumpets from the orchestra. Yeah, it just sort of becomes a lackluster image with no intention at all. Like, yes, it's still appeasing to look at, but the intention goes no further than the actual aesthetic visuals of the image, which gives me beginner photographer energy because I definitely took this picture for the purpose of this video that I knew would come out 1.5 years later. Now, in this next photograph, what elements make up our intention this time? We've got the crush can of soda, these two random strangers who I definitely did not know, and thirdly, the terrain. But what if I told you there was a fourth element here that adds that panache, that je ne sais quoi, because we're trying to highlight the litter that always goes unseen? Would me having used a low aperture that puts everything in focus have been appropriate for this situation? I don't think so, because I wanted to give the rubbish the spotlight it doesn't normally receive. And yet the symphony of the photograph is still intact this time because the element is meant to be the main character of the message. That the audience should be, I guess, reminded that keeping a clean environment is everybody's responsibility, especially on the beautiful Australian coast I shot this on. Now, just quickly, I think it wouldn't make too much sense and would definitely weaken the photograph's theme of people's ignorance if our two antagonists were facing the rubbish instead of facing away from it. Which is why I want to emphasize again that even small choices like the positioning of an element in this case can be the difference between an average photograph and one that you can tell was shot with intention. And if we removed an element like our two characters here, well, I guess it would lose its intention altogether. Patience is a virtue. Okay, that was a very abrupt way to start this next point, but you'll see what I mean very soon. Because sometimes a beginner photographer might find him or herself in the perfect position, but just not at the perfect time. And waiting 55 minutes in the scorching Sydney sun on this afternoon when I took this photograph, just for an element to present itself in the exact place I wanted it to, was well worth the wait. The interaction between elements such as this conductor seeming to be holding this lady at the top of the staircase here makes this photograph seem very intentional, even if there was no intention behind it. I wanted to show you that something as lifeless as a wall advertisement can still be brought to life with the correct usage of other elements at the right time. Next is a scene that I shot on my A7 III. Now, a single step to the side can have such a deep impact on the overall intention of their photograph, which is what you're going to understand very soon. But first, let's identify our elements that create our intention. We've got the cyclist in the foreground, the dark forest in the background, and the path here that looks as if it's sort of like luring him in. We can feel the inevitable journey the cyclist has to take, but the photograph's transition from light to dark between its elements creates this sort of like fear and this doubt which we can empathize heavily with our character. But let's take a single step to the right and see how our intention for this photograph can be absolutely ruined. Boom. The symphony between our three elements, I guess, loses its balance and our attention shifts only to the cyclists in the foreground. It's much harder for our eyes to bounce between our elements harmoniously like it was before. The intention is not nearly as clear anymore, and that's all because of a single step to the side. Now, before you leave, I want to get something straight real quick. All of the final versions of the photographs that you saw today weren't just shot first go. It was all the dud photographs I had to take first in order to get to the final product that I thought best delivered my intention. And I think the problem is that even though photographers don't like to show their dud photos that they post in their videos and on Instagram, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand why so many beginners quit before they even start. Like, they think they don't have the eye for it, when all they constantly see is perfection. Like, how are you meant to stay motivated when that's all you see? Like anything, it takes mistakes and hard work to do anything well, but if you can commit to the craft, I guarantee you'll be shooting pro-level photographs regardless of your experience in no time. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you messed with the video today. Get out of my frame and get shooting.